As opposed to.
You can.
So we'll call the meeting to order.
Okay,
5:01.
do we have to do something like that to get rid of that thing?
Yes, got it.
Yep.
You have to go got it, so it will actually record.
There we are.
Yep, the things we
No,
learned.
this machine doesn't work that way.
Hit enter. Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. Ouch.
Does it, we can start with the bills, if that works for everyone?
It certainly does.
Where are the bills and?
Right about here. and everything.
I think you got it.
No, those are that,
I can't see.
That's the reconciliation of that. That's your correctly, so.
Yeah, I got questions.
Okay.
What we're paying electric repairs?
The lights.
What's that?
Outside lights.
Outside lights.
The outside lights were fixed.
Remember when?
Oh.
He asked about the lights. He asked
Oh,
about
yeah,
the
yeah.
electric.
Yep. Next question.
Repair of the outdoor light on Ferry Street.
Okay, next question. Culligan Water Service, what do they do for us?
What's that?
Culligan Water Service.
Culligan. Culligan, what do we get with
Oh,
Culligan?
water. For the staff.
Oh, bottled water, okay.
Yeah,
Like a,
like a thing, big thing full of water,
A water jug, the staff.
a jug, whatever.
Well, I have another question. National Grid 3 for Lansingburg.
yeah,
Why is that bill so big compared to Maine?
That is
Probably
bulk,
because of timing.
and it's electric and gas combined.
Okay.
But it's also probably a little bit late because of the gas. Anyway, I don't know what period that covers, Joy.
Yeah, it's the bills should be right there by Carolyn if you would like to see it, but it covers, it shows the span and it does have the Lansingburg electric and gas together.
Okay, it seemed bigger than Maine. And it's a smaller building, but it's just timing issues.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's way bigger.
And actually bigger than Maine. Oh, did you say Maine or?
It seems bigger than Maine.
Okay, I thought you said Maine.
Yes, it's a timing thing. So
Okay.
it really was 1302 is what would be what month?
right.
Okay.
Thank you, Carolyn.
You're welcome, Drew. Happy to do. A lot of what's in here is also summer programming, which the Friends and Warren Stewart's covers a lot of as well. Just for your information. And the big bill there, the Hartford workers' comp, that's for a whole year. Any other questions?
Anyway. Why are we split up on our telecommunications between First Light here and Time Warner and Burke?
Good question. Why are we First Light here and Time Warner over there? You want to take on that one?
Yeah,
Well-
first light
One
handle.
question.
You want me to?
Yeah, I
Go
think I can cover that.
Okay.
First Light, wait a minute now, Time Warner is at Lansingburg.
Yep.
Time Warner originally in contract with the city has to provide one service for the public library free. And that's true everywhere. So that one service is at Lansingburg, which, by the way, is terrible. We can't have the basic service here because it doesn't work very well. We're actually gonna have to switch that at Lansingburg, so that we can get halfway decent Wi-Fi and everything else.
We had Time Warner here too. And it was
Well,
less than, less than.
they
superior.
can only give you one service. But and that's a basic,
Right, but we were paying
a
for it here.
basic speed.
Right.
Mhm.
And that speed is too slow. When what we have here is like 4 times what they have in Lansing
Right.
in
And
terms of speed.
we had a board member who worked closely with First Light. So he brought them in here and they treated us very well. Okay. So First Light's here and it works so much better.
So, in terms of it, done, do I need to make a motion that we are going to make a motion at the other meeting? Or have more questions? Okay.
I saw something about sprinklers. Where do we have sprinklers?
Something about what?
Sprinklers somewhere?
Yeah,
Where do we have them?
in the boiler room.
Okay, just curious.
Every year that has to be inspected and has to be filed with the city code enforcement. Which is
I
the
I
same
just
way
was
with.
surprised that we
elevator.
had sprinklers.
Yeah,
Thank you.
most libraries don't like sprinklers throughout the building. But they are in the boiler room.
Just got that.
That's my own question, because Pete is my other question.
Anybody else?
Yes, does anybody else have?
So what?
Oh, usually Joy has a stash.
Oh, yes, you would,
So I make a motion that
that we, yes, that we are going to recommend approval of the bills to the board.
So I make that motion. That we approve the bills in the amount of $63,836.22. That we make a motion at the regular board meeting to pay those bills.
Seconds. All approved? Aye.
Alrighty. On to, are we to the income statement? Right? Not a lot going on, actually. Not much new. For year to date, our net income is over. Not yet. We can do that. You want to do that now? Oh, let's do that. then.
It just seems to make sense.
That's fine.
And it was right here.
Yes.
to them.
Yes, and it was included in the. So the credit card bill is here. It's included in your list of bills that you just approved. There's nothing on there that stands out as anything. $275.74, the majority of which is the New York State Parks Pass that we uses. People can check out and go to any state park.
And that's part of the museum pass program, so the Friends cover that one too?
Usually.
Okay. I thought so. Thank you.
Any questions on the credit card? No. Income statement. If you so desire. We did receive a little bit of money from tax levy from prior years, nothing from this year, this month. We're a little behind. But nothing significant. We are in good shape mostly because of, we got that $30,000 that's sitting there that is actually earmarked for the project that, and I could never remember which one, the $30,000 you got from the endowment.
I think it's for the parapet.
It is.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on the income statement? Okay. That's fine. That's the,
Right,
Short
right.
one.
That's just for the-
between the $30,000 we got from the endowment and the $35,000 that we haven't paid out in salaries because we've been so short-staffed. We're in pretty good shape here.
Yeah.
It's almost exactly the $74,000 that we're, or $70,000 that we are. Okay.
Now it's time to worry because
Saying,
things have changed.
We're not using security services much, huh?
Not at all.
No.
no,
And that's fine, that works.
Yeah,
So far,
for now,
for now.
for now.
So far, we haven't found a very good solution.
Yeah.
I'm not happy with the security service people. Also, it's difficult to find somebody to hire
Mhm.
who's responsible and I know would do a good job. So far, I haven't found somebody. Still looking for, what's his name?
David,
I don't know whether he's still in the
David.
area.
David who?
He was in the police department. It was community relations.
he was, the community officer, but he wasn't in.
David Buckley.
Yeah.
Buckley.
Yeah.
And I had talked to him, a couple years ago in the street before, he's the kind of person that I was looking for.
And he was interested because I talked to him too, but he gave me information, contact, and the contact information doesn't work.
Uh, Anyway, so we, so far haven't had any issues that are major.
But we've had some incidents, right?
Oh, we always have those.
Yeah.
But in a way, our usages are still a bit lower
Usage
than
is very
pre-
much lower,
yeah.
yes.
pre-COVID, so,
Usage is half or less than. what it
right.
was.
So when it starts going up, that's a service.
Well, that's
that
the
has to
thing.
return.
Well, no, that's what we're waiting for. But so far, there hasn't been a lot of signs.
It will happen.
well.
Just takes a while. I mean, it's just like a business, building back
Yep.
your
Mhm.
clientele takes forever, I know. And that's, some of the restaurants went out at the end of the pandemic because they still didn't have any clients. And same way with some other retailers.
I'm sure there's some permanent changes where people switch, got used to using electronic books. Never did before.
Right.
So, and you said there's nothing we can do about those bank charges, right?
No, there isn't. We talked to the bank. They're all legal.
So even though we have so much money in there, they won't forgive those charges?
No.
They won't forgive, they don't charge us for the investment account, but they have to charge us for something, so they do the operating and the payroll account. But we did try very hard to get out of it.
We did, we threatened them.
Did you send a fruit basket?
What?
Did you send a fruit or muffin basket?
Are all banks like this, or would we be able to get a better deal at a different bank?
Well, you could if you want. I don't know if that would make any difference, but
But if the other banks aren't necessarily commercial, right? So they wouldn't necessarily have the, like the investment account that we have, the municipal investment account.
Yeah, that's maybe true, that the investment account is required of municipalities. And that's why we have that account. But I have not talked to other banks. I haven't shopped around for banks. So, you know, if you want to shop around for banks,
We find some places referring to their branches now as stores. And they're trying to monetize every interaction, so.
Yeah. What bank goes storage?
It's storage.
Storage.
Rather than branch, it's a store.
Store, STORE. Okay. Huh. Well, the library, the new terminology in library world is not patrons, but customers. So.
What bank do we use now?
Pioneer. Well, are we a Pioneer? Is that our bank?
no,
No,
key bank.
We did have Pioneer, but not anymore.
Right.
Yes.
Any other questions? No. And we have any questions on the remaining? I mean, there's three bank accounts, but nothing in there was. Ordinary. And then it breaks down the investment account. Like restricted and unrestricted and operating account, so you can see the movement of money. Which I never understand. So. You can have questions, but those have to be directly to Trey. Any other questions?
All right, is this, are they all income? They're all labeled income.
There's two different income statements. There's one that shows just the year to date and one that shows current month and year to date.
I mean, this looks like it says expenses on here, but why is it labeled income statement?
Yes, because it's all, yeah, the income statement itself is like 3 pages long.
The expenses are part of an income statement.
That's why.
We have revenues and expenses and an income statement.
I decided to be revenues.
I understand.
All right. There's no other questions. Are we gonna, I don't know whether you do want to talk all about the budget now before we, or we're just gonna talk about that in the bigger meeting?
Well, I figured we'd pretty much talk about that in the meeting.
Which is great.
And I do have a question. The administration committee sent a request asking that the finance committee do a financial analysis.
Yes, and then I talked to Evelyn and she was not as, I wanted to be as specific of what exactly you wanted as far as financial analysis.
Yeah, you know, I kind of, when I saw your message, and I wasn't sure who was going to talk to who about this, but that was actually something you brought up. I actually did not do that.
Oh, I thought you did. You asked for that.
And
I
no,
brought it up. I brought it up in that meeting,
yes, you actually
or I brought
did.
it up previously.
No, in that meeting, you said that I'd like to, and you said who would do that? And who would do, there was another piece of this. And they go, well, that would be finance. And Paul agreed about the budget, discussing the budget, or looking at some of the pieces of it would be a finance committee thing.
Mhm. And I know originally there was thought of having the finance committee involved as well.
Right. So, but
Before I attended a meeting.
I think the words used were, I'd like to know if, who would make the decision of whether or not joining the New York State retirement system would be affordable? And that was like your remark. And then we said, okay, if you're going to do that kind of analysis, it would be finance. But no, that's not something an Evelyn would do.
Well, you did it originally because that, you included the the chair in that original meeting.
Right, because I think it's important for the finance committee to be aware of some of the financial aspects of this, because, it comes down to budget, it comes down to, the numbers. But to do an analysis of affordability, actually, those are words that you would usually find in my, coming out of VA.
I don't remember. So I'm not denying that. That could have been the case.
So I was like, I don't really know what this means. I'm not the one.
So I wasn't really sure how it was. And as far as affordability, it's hard, just from when she gave her, it's hard to really figure out how much it's going to cost year to year. Is that what you're looking for, more of a long-term payment? When you're talking affordability, I don't know what you mean. or what specific
Well,
you're-
I had done a sort of quick and dirty analysis just of how much all the different things that we would anticipate going up in this year's budget.
Right,
would cost.
which is what we had in the budget, right?
Which would cost, so, but it was just quick and dirty, and
Yeah, I didn't know whether, besides
I
what
know
Paul gave
how
us.
much, we kind of know how much it's going to cost in the future if we do it.
Right.
We don't know what the current value of that. I don't know that we want, that people are interested in knowing that, because there's a time value of money, all that sort of thing. The unpredictability is, I think, a big issue. Not really knowing how much it will cost
Right.
potentially.
When you say time value of money,
Right, if I borrow from you $10
Mhm.
and I give it back in a year, it's not worth $10 anymore.
okay, you're talking about depreciation of cash.
Present value, and all that stuff that is.
Well, the other thing, remember with the retirement system, they don't blindside you. They tell you if your contribution level needs to be adjusted. They leave that out with time for your agency to then pick it up in its next budget. There's no surprises at the last minute. No looking under the couch cushions.
But there can be surprises in that, like this year. I don't think anybody was expecting inflation to be as high as it is. And I think that's the unpredictability of it. I was around when, inflation was 15% a year. Again, you can't, it's very hard to predict the unpredictable and what we may be committing to.
With the state retirement system, they're more focused on what is the market doing, so they can make sure that you have the right value of contribution going in. They're not focused on inflation.
Well, and the market is tanking because of the inflation, and fear of rising interest rates. For instance, I don't think that the endowment will be in shape to give us $30,000 in this year, because they were generous last year because the market had treated them well, because they do invest in the market.
And the ask was larger than it usually is anyways. There's been years they can't do that. But the economy's tanked. The market's tanked, I should say. Previously, was it 208? 2009 was a disaster for many investors. And then guess what? There was a boom again. Everything's
Yeah,
unpredictable.
Certainly,
Yeah,
after the initial bite, the investment account for my fire company went back up last month. It started back. Who knows what it'll do by the end of this month? It's not a straight line in either direction right now.
Right, it's unpredictable. Yeah.
So is
Yeah,
everyone,
right.
but so is, for the people who are in TIA prep. They're, I guess we pay the same amount, so you're hedging your bet on the side of how much the library has to pay, but what the people benefit from it,
It's who shoulders the risk.
right?
And it's being shifted now to.
There's other risks to the retirement system. If you want to discuss them. One, what are social factors in how they invest? So many social groups are trying to get the comptroller to divest, which changes how that ship is going. It's hard to turn it around, but there are those pressures. What if there's another comptroller who doesn't have the same philosophy of investing as our current controller? There's not, that was one of the questions asked of, is there anything that requires, that's not the right word, but requires the controller to follow a very cautious investing scheme? And the answer was no. So, nothing is concrete. You'd have to have a crystal ball. There's so many things that could change. And everything from price of gas to insurance to you name it, everything is budget. You can't always think about what's going to happen if. I don't think any of us can live our lives that way either.
Yeah, it's more a question of whether the library can afford that degree of unpredictability and risk.
Yeah.
Is
The library can't afford any of it. Our income comes from taxes, property tax. It's whether or not the people of the community can afford it. We don't have.
Sure.
We don't have some magical source of money here.
The other question is, can we afford certain things, not to do certain things? Do we want to go through another major departure of staffing and going through that whole recruitment and training?
Well,
It's all balance and all those
right, but there are
issues.
other ways to address that than the retirement system that may be more predictable. I don't know what the percentage increase, but that could be put to salaries instead of going into the retirement system.
This is most of the board meeting, by the way.
Right, but we still have a minute left for the.
So let's
I mean-
talk about it all over again.
It's the major part of the board meeting.
Yeah. Well, now we're prepared for a longer discussion of this. We know some of the issues.
So shall we call the finance committee meeting to close then?
I think that would be appropriate. Would you like to make the
Then we
motion?
close.
Huh? All in favor?
Aye.
So is it?
It is.
It is, okay. In that case,
Exactly.
I did get my new 4G phone now to check. Oh, I'm so excited about a 4G. Oh, well. Anyways, I shall now call this meeting to order of the board. I see we do have someone on the screen.
Casey Maxey from
Yep.
the Friends of the Library.
Mhm.
Yep. Hi, Casey.
Hi, Casey. We can't see you, but we know you're there.
Hi,
Public
everyone.
comment? Hello.
Hi.
Public comment? Casey, do you have anything to say at our beginning?
Not really. I was gonna wait and see. I usually thought public comment was at the end.
There's both. There's pre and
okay.
post.
I will do
Yeah.
a post then.
Okay, we'll have time again. Thank you. All right, Ms. Carolyn. Treasury report, approval of expenditures.
I make a motion that the board approve the payment of our bills this month in the amount of $63,836.22 based on the finance committee's recommendation. All those in favor? We know that you.
Aye.
No, you can do it. I just jump in when someone else does it. But, you know. Okay. So since we've been all here, I guess we don't have any more questions or anything else on that. Oh, right. Just in case. All right, now we have consent agenda. In our consent agenda packet, we have the approval of the minutes, a building committee report, and an admin committee report. There is no Upper Hudson report and no president's report. All of them are, that is spread across agenda items. Okay. I'll make a motion for the consent agenda to be approved. Any discussion? No. May I have a second? Thank you. All approved?
Aye.
Now, regular agenda. Paul, would you like to talk about the
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
new staff members?
We have two new staff members, part-time library assistants for Lansingburg, which kind of brings Lansingburg up to full staff, and they've also, increased their hours back to what they were. So we welcome Janelle Morelli, who was a teaching assistant for the Troy City Schools and is now a teaching assistant at Westar Bosse's. And Charlotte McEster, who is a student over here at Osage College and has quite a lot of volunteer experience.
Is there spelling in the director's report? I can't remember.
Is in there.
It's in there. Okay. Wait a minute. Yes, there it is. I cannot remember. Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about our new hires? All right. What?
Need a motion?
Yes, I'm about to. Unless you want to make it.
Okay.
I'm making a motion to approve the hiring of the two new staff members at Lansingburg Branch. May I have a second? Thank you. All approved?
Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Wow, hybrid meeting resolution.
Good luck with it.
Oh, thank you. So,
Yes, I don't understand that, why it's a resolution rather than policy as we usually do.
it's not policy, it's a new law. It's part of the April 9th legislation passed by the legislature. So they are requiring that it is a resolution with the public hearing. And if you don't mind, I'm going to go through a couple of the things that points. I'm going to try to go through this fairly quickly. So as of April 9th, 2022, new modifications were made to the open meeting law. It was designed by the legislature, not the Commission on Open Government. So the commission, the committee is now, it's still interpreting and designing protocols, templates, and procedures. This is considered a trial run. So this modification is in place until June 2024. The purpose is to expand the use of video conferencing while maintaining, I'll call it, the integrity of open meeting law. The most basic change in this is that a member of the board does not need to announce their location as long as a quorum of members are in a publicly available location or locations. In order to provide this option in what they term extraordinary conditions to a member of the board needs to have a resolution in place, which requires a public hearing. A draft resolution is available for review. It's in your packet. It's in the Dropbox under video conferencing. It's based on a template from the Committee on Open Government. It's the simplest one that I certainly found. It covers the requirement for meeting participation of the member and the public and the conditions under which a member may need to attend virtually. Even in the resolution and in the modifications, it's the rationale for attending virtually is not all encompassing. It can be anything from illness, disability, family care, you name it. There's a list of rationale. But again, it's not all encompassing, so it gives some room for the member to decide whether or not. It's not for the sake of convenience, though. So, I checked with the city of Troy. The city clerk didn't even know anything about this, kept saying, we're meeting hybridly. And I go, I know, but there's a new resolution you have to pass. So she was going to check with the attorney, the city's attorney about it. Upper Hudson doesn't have one yet either. That should be coming in July. But for reasons I'll go into, I think that we should be working on this now, even if they haven't done one. I'm hoping that members of the board can review the draft resolution. And if there's anyone who has any comments, changes, additions, whatever, if you could do so by June 28th. A suggested plan is to hold a public, as we need to have a public hearing in order to go through the passage of the resolution. The idea is to maybe hold the public hearing at 5:30 on July 12th, our next regularly scheduled board meeting, between the Finance Committee meeting and the regular board meeting. Because when that will get something in place, it should cover us in that case. It would be like using the first public comment period. It doesn't mean that public comment period will be removed from the agenda, but it's almost that same time period. It just makes it more formal, which we're required to do.
I'm sorry, I missed the date that you wanted comments. on.
July, by June 28th. If we're ready for July 12th, if we have all the changes or comments on it before July 12th, it'll give us enough time to make the necessary announcements about the hearing. There is a list of protocols through the Department of State, which we need to put into place. Now, so if we do this at 5:30, according to Department of State, the hearing lasts as long as there are speakers. So when there are no more speakers, we can start a regular board meeting. And I wanted to say this as diplomatically, which I'm not usually good at, as possible. We don't often get a lot of response to public unless it's something fairly huge, I'll put it that way. In case anyone's wondering why now, instead of waiting until maybe Upper Hudson does something or anything else. Because of the process required, we need to have any board input and modifications completed well before we meet. We can't discuss this on the 12th and make changes. And sometimes that's what we do, and it does work for some of our motions and some of the other processes we put in place. But because there's a public hearing, we need to know what we're providing to the public as our resolution. Personally, I am amused that we're required to do this because while it is required, the rules that are still suspended, it goes suspended animation because the state is still in emergency mode. I think even the committee is a little amused by it too. But I'm trying to think. Now, basically, I may not have all the answers yet. And again, even the committee doesn't, but I've opened a dialogue with them. So if anyone has any questions now about this,
The only thing that strikes me
Yes.
is, why do we call out posted to a YouTube channel?
because part of the suggestion is that we put our information on the website. And one of the things that Stephanie Cole Adams in her workshop on this suggested that we really look on whether or not our website has the capacity to do so. And what we usually do is put meetings such as this on our YouTube channel, not on our website. I checked with the committee and they said, sure, not a problem. Just again, making sure some of the other housekeeping details are there, like a link to our page is available. There are certain other, housekeeping details that we'll have to make sure of, like certain things need to go on the announcements that we post. But that's why it says YouTube instead of,
I just worry about stuff going out of business. It's like saying that we will ship our goods by the New York Central Railroad.
well, let's say YouTube does, then we can always switch to the website or another spot. But it was, again, a capacity question. And when I asked, they said, sure, you can put on YouTube. And that's where people are, if they're going to look for us or our meetings, that's where they're going now. And I figured we'd stay consistent. Personally, I figured we can stay consistent. Now, again, if anyone else has an objection or thinks that's not what, then.
Okay.
Well, I think that's a valid concern. Is there something more generic?
Right, could you say just posted digitally by the Troy Public Library or something? Or posted,
On its own website or
Okay.
to a service? A digital service?
We could do that.
just make it more clear.
Generic. Okay, thank you. If you remember, write that, could you send me a quick note? Of course, I probably will check the minutes too. Digitally. How did you want to say that?
I don't know whether that's the correct terminology or not.
Hold
but
on. Digitally,
Posted digitally.
Posted
By
digitally.
the Troy Public Library. Digitally posted.
again, I just switched out terms and they had used website in their model and they'll change website too. That's that word, like YouTube.
Digital content. There you go. Posted to the Troy Public Library's digital content. So,
Okay, shall do. All right, any other thoughts, questions, comments?
I just had a question. So
Sure.
if you're in executive meeting, this is saying that you're recording it, but you're going to take that section out of the recording? Is that what it is? Or you're turning off the
You
recording?
can turn off, I believe you
Okay.
can turn off the recording.
Okay.
And there's certain things we can do as part of our own guidelines. And create those, they have models for that and they're working on that also. But there's more latitude in what we can do to say, this is a situation where a person can vote. This is a situation where we can do this. So.
So if we don't have any members attend digitally, then we do not have to make it available to the public digitally.
We do not have to record it.
But they can
We could,
attend.
the public can
Okay.
attend. This is the way it was explained. if a member of the body is attending digitally, we need to record it. Transcriptions available upon request, so we don't have to automatically do it. If all members of the body are physically present, we do not have to record it. If a member of the public is attending virtually, we do not have to record it. Doesn't mean we shouldn't or won't. It just means it's not required to be recorded.
But this sounds more to me like it's saying that if we don't even have to offer video conferencing attendance to the public if all of our members are here. Section 103H.
Doesn't mean we don't have to. And it might be good to put that in. Again, they put that in there. If we want to take it out, we can. But we've been doing the recording and putting it on the website. I personally suggest that we continue to do that because one of the greatest criticisms we have with the public is that they think we try to hide things, that we're, that we're doing things, surreptitiously. And I don't want anyone thinking that.
Well, then couldn't we just say requires that members of the public be permitted to attend and participate if authorized in any meeting by video conference? Why do we need when a member attends by video conference? I mean, aren't you basically saying you want to let them attend by video conference no matter what?
I'll ask them about that. I don't know if there was a specific reason that they put that in there.
Okay.
Like there's a catch to the law
Okay.
or the, the amendment.
I just, again, belt and suspenders, guy from a disaster background, I worry about service interruptions. There may come a time when the public can't attend virtually simply because that out there isn't working. We should be on the hook for what happens beyond the wall.
Understood, but there are still certain requirements that
Or-
we
or-
have to make the best efforts to meet.
Or perhaps, as time goes on, we won't be so sanguine about Zoom and the use anymore. The interest will just fade. It certainly makes sense that if board members are attending digitally, that be available to the
Yeah.
public. So we might want to have it
But
a little looser.
again, if the board is all present and the internet is crashed that day, continue to march. We shouldn't hamstring ourselves that way.
Say it again.
If the board's all present
Yeah.
and the internet's crashed that day, we should still continue to march.
Right. This is why I wanted it presented today. I will double check on that too. Anything else? Yes.
Not that I'm trying to get myself out of a job. But if there's going to be a recording of it always available, do we still need minutes? I know we had briefly discussed this, you and I.
We would need, ultimately, the only thing minutes need to have are motions. Oh God, what's that word? How it ended up? You know what I'm saying?
How the vote went.
If someone's video then you have to say who's in person and who's video conferencing. And that goes in the attendance. So there's attendance, there's your motions, how they've been finished. Beginning and end, the times.
So we
That's it.
do, but so we still do need minutes, even though
We
the
still need-
entire thing will be posted.
Recorded, you mean,
Recorded,
like we did,
right.
yes. But ultimately, so you wouldn't be putting yourself out of a job, you could truncate
I
your
just
job.
truncate my job.
Yes, because to be honest, your minutes are very much a
I make
transcript.
I make my job harder, I'm aware.
And I don't- it's appreciated. I know what you think that, you're right, why did you make it so hard? It's appreciated because it helps when we look for little details. But even though it's recorded, we still need to have something as a minute.
Okay.
Enough. But yeah, truncated, mucho truncated. How does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. On anything else? Okay, I think then, thank you, everybody. Again, please, if you have any other thoughts or want to reword the thoughts you've had today, please let me know. Or Paul, and then we'll put it all together and be ready for July. Okay, thank you. All right. The big one. It's you and the budget.
Budget,
The budget,
We have to do this resolution first, so
isn't it?
that's the next thing on the list.
Yeah, that's after.
I've been put together a budget for 2023 that's in your packet. You can find everything in your, there are 34 pages in there. I guess, let's see, taking a look at expenses first. Library books and materials, I put in an increase of about 6.9%. And then in terms of facilities, we're running into a situation with a very slight increase in building repairs, which is still not enough. But probably 3 times what we have would be closer to reality. But anyway, and I have increased IT support based on our current experience. We're just, having more and more expense in terms of keeping our digital self going here. It did decrease the security line because we have not engaged a security company again at this point. I wasn't really happy with their performance anyway. In some cases, incidents were made worse by security guards than they needed to be. So at any rate, I think that's still an open question. So we go down to salaries and benefits. The increase in the salary line is based on the revised salary schedule that I have presented and put together, which consists basically of salaries that are fairly competitive with other libraries in the region and throughout the state. And I say fairly competitive. In some cases, they're not an exact match, but they make an effort to be fairly close to other libraries in similar situations. And when I compared that to, again, I didn't compare that to, Westchester or downstate. We used local public libraries of similar size, and we used other New York State libraries of similar size and similar communities. Health insurance is slightly increased based on, I haven't received anything from CDPHP in terms of the increase yet, but there probably will be one. The retirement is based on participating in the New York State retirement system, and is based on an estimate that was sent to us last year as an annual cost, an annual payment. Okay, workers' comp, they have increased workers' comp all of a sudden, willy-nilly. I mean, I'm not sure what answers to give. Joy, maybe you can remember what answers to give? Oh, Joy's not there. Is Joy
I'm
still there?
here. I'm here.
Yeah, you remember the workers' compensation people and what they said was,
Yes.
I don't know.
Well, we've had like a
Probably.
lower amount, and since we've added staff, that had to change, and then the different laws that were enacted since we joined caused it to go up a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then some other things that had happened in the past couple of years. I had them audit our information 3 times, and they said that we are now having to pay the increased amount due to staff
So, good
and
luck.
new laws and new coverages that
Anyway,
happen for our staff.
okay, FICA is increased, of course, based on salary increase. So the overall increase to the salary and benefits would amount to about an 18.67% increase based on the, new salary schedule and joining New York State retirement system.
18 point what? Sorry,
What's that?
18.6.
It's on the
6.7.
Right on.
It's in the budget.
Thank you.
It's right there.
This is easy.
Here it is.
Which is really basically the major portion of the budget under consideration. The operating part of the budget, there's not a whole lot of difference there.
Insurance went down,
What's that?
insurance went down. You're thinking,
Yeah, slightly. I probably had it at a higher level last year than it needed to be. That's all I can figure at this point. It's just like actually automation went down only because I over budgeted it this year. So it didn't really go down. It's just based on our experience. The CDTA, this is just based on what we're doing now, since we are still not accepting cash payments. We're only handling about the 30,000 instead of the 60,000. So that I just changed, but that's a kind of a wash anyway, because the revenue portion has the same thing. Okay, so the revenue portion of the budget, the major increase is obviously going to be the tax levy. And based on what I've computed for expenses, it looks like we would need a tax levy increase of 15.99%. So again, you're looking at approximately 200,000 in salaries as an increase and 95,000 in, actually not 95,000, 95,000 minus 24,000 in retirement system. Yeah.
71,000 retirement,
Yeah.
and then 100,000 in salary.
Yeah,
I have a question about that. It's appropriate to ask now.
Yeah.
Where is the catch-up?
where's the who?
The catch-up?
Next year, 2024.
Oh, so it doesn't get paid this year?
No, it doesn't get paid in 2023. I guess they do that when you're all done and everybody who's going to join is joined, and then they can calculate that differently. I mean, what they sent us was just an estimate. So it'll be a more accurate figure after the year is over.
13.
What are you looking
Okay, so this is, my
for? What?
downfall.
What?
Well, you said 15.99, and I'm looking, 13.11. So the increase is 13.11.
Increase, yes. The overall increase is 13.11.
And we have to set that 15.9%.
That would be,
What is the average for a homeowner?
150. At least that's what the city was saying, the comptroller was saying last year. Average home is
So they
150K.
pay how much in library tax?
You're trying to figure out what it would be.
Yeah.
Dollars,
Yeah.
Yeah, we like the dollars.
yeah, we haven't got an estimate,
Dollars.
the average taxpayer. If you could take 15.99% times your current library tax, and that's what the increase would be. But I don't have a figure for what the average tax.
Dollars aren't gonna be that much, to Jerry's point, to sell it. It's
Okay.
minuscule.
No,
Well, it's not minuscule, if the 20% increase on probably about 150, let's say 85,000. Is the current tax, so that's about $17 increase. So you-
$17 is a hamburger nowadays.
So you can't say that it's the price of a cup of coffee as we've done in past years.
It's almost the price of a cup of coffee at, some places.
$10 at the place on River Street.
Yeah, Starbucks, I don't know, take a look.
And I don't know if
Lately.
anybody else has noticed their trash bills or their water bills
Yeah.
have also significantly increased, and we don't, like, there might be something to be said for we're increasing just the same amount that these other services are increasing. Which is not great, but they're increasing because their expenses are increasing, our expenses are increasing as well.
Well, you have the fundraising, like doubling.
Yeah, optimistically.
Is that still like just with a plan to do the one annual appeal letter, or are we thinking we're gonna try and figure out another
Well,
way?
by the time, yeah, we're maybe hoping there's additional ideas and so on. We sort of haven't had an active committee
No.
for a couple of years. But we may want to go back to that.
Well, even when we did, though, there wasn't a substantial increase in the fundraising.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have yet to hit upon, besides the annual appeal, anything that really brings in any money.
Well,
Any of the things that we've tried.
what about Gilded Age? Is that in here? Like we're gonna get from them, or how much are we getting?
What's that?
Gilded Age, are they paying us?
Oh, yeah, they give us, it's a small amount.
Oh, that's for more.
We haven't talked about that yet.
Yeah.
I don't even have a schedule from them yet. They're still
Right.
working on that.
But I mean, so that wouldn't need to be part of it.
No, well, we consider that donations.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, I did work on an additional, like a budget that would be what I would normally say, well, it's a budget that doesn't include the new salary schedule, and then there's a budget that would not include participating in your state retirement system. It would just be what I would normally be doing without those two larger items. And that would require a 4% increase overall.
Well, I think one of the selling points for the increase would be being able to retain and staff and pay decent salaries. Wouldn't you think that would be something that would be well received? by the
Yeah,
community?
I think that's very important, especially for a library of our size, who's trying to attract, a staff that's capable and enthusiastic and competent and everything else that that you want in a staff. I mean, the market particularly now is switched to favoring labor and not employers. And it's still a tight market labor-wise. And I don't see that changing in a long, long time. I think that's where we're going to be. And I think this goes a long way, to addressing that issue.
I don't know whether now is the time to talk about it. So say we do decide, we put this out there and, the way it goes and then it doesn't pass. So basically we revert back to what our budget was this year.
Yes.
What would be our strategy? And as far as,
Well, there would be no real salary increases. And that's really the biggest part of, the expense. There would be maybe less in materials budgets. It would be pretty lean. And, you'd have to work through it. I think in our case, I don't know, my reading right now is that this might be a good time to ask for this kind of an increase. If you look at the election results from the school districts and school district public libraries, there was no hitch at all. Everything passed pretty much without question. I think, again, when the economy begins to have problems and people lose a certain amount of confidence and so on in the economy, that they look to public services like libraries and schools to, make sure that they're good and strong. We all know that, when you get into a recession situation, library circulation goes up significantly. And I think people are right now concerned, that we may very well be heading for a major recession. So I don't know. I think this is a good time to see if we can, make this adjustment.
And that actually could be part of our pitch. That as things are not doing well, we will be here. We'll be here for
last
mature.
125 years.
Yeah. Not just, again, not just the facade, but everything that's inside in it. So when people don't have materials, can't pay certain things or, have other issues, they can come to the library. We'll be here.
And certainly our salary schedule change is pretty much in line with what the new CSEA contract is.
Yeah, it's,
We're not unreasonable there.
no, not at all.
What is the rate of increase on the CSA contract?
They've got 2 years of 2 and 3 years of 3. And there was a year of it that's retroactive.
Versus 10% in 1 year. So that's a whole lot.
They're not 10%.
Well, the average is about 10%, right? in the salary increase?
Well, it does vary a bit, you know, because I didn't do it across the board like a 10%.
Because we haven't had steps
Right.
like we have, and we're just
Well, we've been having
biting the
3%.
bullet.
We've been having 3%.
Yeah, our steps have been 3%.
So that's about equivalent to what CSEA is.
Yeah.
doing.
But CSCA and PETH have had increases throughout. We weren't doing that for years.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, if you're saying, hey, you know, we're doing what CSEA is doing now, we're not. We're way over what CSEA has done. When you talk about 2 years at 2 and 2 years at 3, that's a big difference from 12%.
Right. So basically what you're saying is that's not a good argument. That's to use. You might get yourself in trouble with that.
But yeah, catching up.
We are.
Maybe that's saying it's the same increase, but we are catching up
Yeah,
with
yeah.
another employer that staff can go to.
with another employer, there's a lot of people in the city.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at it that way. I mean, we are coming from behind. We're
Way behind.
considerably far behind. And I look at, we start people at library assistant at 1357, you know, where, you know, McDonald's is at 15 and some of them are higher than that.
And I know that's not something that we really advertise, but I mean, is that something we should be sharing with, like, what our starting salaries? Is there someplace where people can see that? Because I think says something right there. If you were to look at the starting salary for a person who has a master's degree is what, $32,000, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I think that really speaks to people. Like, I don't know whether you want people to know the salaries or not, but.
Well,
when
you
it
know,
happens
I
like
mean,
that, think
I
it's
don't
just-
have a thing because as a public institution, our salary schedule is completely public.
Right.
Um,
Is it
Well,
available?
I was just on See Through New York, and library staff, I like searched a few and you guys didn't come up.
Yeah.
But that was just on See Through New York. I don't know if there's a difference.
I'm-
Look,
I couldn't hear.
See Through New York.
I'll see through. You know, it's not telling people what any given individual's salary is,
Right.
because that's confidential.
Right.
But
The starting salary in each
But,
level, I think it's,
yeah,
I
that
think people
part-
need to know that it's, people here are barely
Oh.
making a living wage.
our scale is public information. And, you know, again, been saying this for years, if you look at the set, we are one of the 5 bigs in Upper Hudson. And we're 25. I mean, we worked our way up, from 25 to 27. No, 27 to 25 out of 29 libraries. That's not really good. That's not saying.
And another comparison.
I thought we were better than that. So on
No,
what figure?
In terms of, like, if you take librarian 1, you're gonna hire a person as a librarian 1. This person has a master's degree in library science. Nobody I have found anywhere in this state pays less than 48,000 a year. We're at 42. So how are we gonna attract people?
I agree. But I think it's important that that kind of information gets out there.
Yeah, and we can because, like I said, our salary schedule is public information.
So again, as long as we keep it
Right.
to the scale, you know, the survey, salary scale, not to an individual. Yep. There is one thing I want to follow up on what you asked about consequences and strategies. It's one of the things I've been talking to Paul about is, and a little bit to staff, is we need to, without filter, let the staff know, the entirety of staff know that the board knows there are consequences, that it's, yes, we understand that burden is also on our shoulders. We want to make sure staff knows that this is what could happen.
I agree.
And all staff. And I know department heads are really good about filtering it down, but still, I think making that statement and making it really clear to staff that we know this and we're thinking about this.
But they need to know, yes, we are gonna go to bat for you, but
Yeah, but it doesn't,
there are,
there's 7 of us and there's, I won't say 50,000 people because not everyone gets a vote in Troy. But there's still,
23,000 of them do, or
right,
supposed to.
right, okay, you know, you can only talk to so many people, you can only get the word out so much, and if there's anyone who puts up the counter to this, you know, they're talking to people too, and it's sometimes difficult to interact that way.
Well,
Interact
there's-
that.
Yeah, I think there's some strategies to this and to getting the word out. I think too, if you get the word out too soon, it might be
Not
conflict.
beneficial.
too much time for conflict to develop. But yeah, I mean, I think you have to get the word out, and I think the local media will give us a hand.
A budget is sometimes a statement of values. This proposal states that we value our staff. And that's what it comes down, that we recognize we're coming from behind. And it states that we value our staff. The two big things we talk about every month, we worry about our staff, and we got a safe and efficient box for them to work in.
And yet that's not really addressed in this budget. Your second part. And we're going to have cash flow issues.
What's that?
We're going to have cash flow issues if we get the grants that we've applied for.
Mhm. Yeah, but you know, that's a whole nother ballgame over here. It's not
Well,
part of
it's-
operating, and it's not part of staffing the library.
But it has to be part of what we do and consider. You know, it doesn't happen magically. And we, As I said before,
Operating
we-
money is not going to pay for the 2 grants that we've applied for. It's just not gonna do that. I'm sorry, but it doesn't work that way. You can't take, hundreds of thousands of dollars out of the operating budget, to match those grants.
And
the match on those 2 grants is 25,000.
The what?
The match on those 2 grants is 25,000 each. No,
25,000 for the 2 of them.
25,000.
Yeah, but I
for
mean,
2 of them.
you're talking about
So-
whether or not we can pay for the job before we get reimbursed. That's the big
Right.
problem.
It's a cash flow issue.
And that needs
And
to
that's
be
what I-
settled in a
that's-
different way than out of operating money.
I don't know, I don't know that it can be. I mean, we need to consider it here also.
And we,
Well, you have 200,000 in, in the bank from
West.
yeah. So, I mean, that's one way, but the rest of it, if,
And I think that's probably what I was getting at. We need to consider the whole big picture.
Well, I
in all
don't-
this.
you
So-
have a budget coming up in September that you need to vote, that people need to vote on. I mean, we don't have any idea how these grants are gonna play out. When are we gonna know? I don't know.
And even if we do, if the money isn't coming out of operating, it's not coming out of the
It
budget,
doesn't
it's
come out of
separate.
operating. It can't,
Well, is
unless you bond and, get the money that way. You
So-
can't
So if,
take it out of operating.
if we, right, well, as you mentioned, we have 200,000, but it may require some money coming from the cash flow of the revenue. So do we forego
You can,
$1.3 million in grants?
no,
Because
again, depending on what the mechanism is, which we know nothing about. We don't know if we're even in the running. And even if the city says we're in the running, that goes to the state to find out whether we're in the running. God knows when
Yeah,
they're gonna answer that.
the last DRI.
did you go to
Yeah,
the?
so-
That's why you didn't see me on the garden tour. Their best estimate last year is probably
Thank you for your sacrifice.
not till November before the state.
What, yeah, what we also don't know is if the state gets back to us and says, yes, you got the money, but you don't get the money until whatever. We don't know how that mechanism even works.
Mhm.
That's way too many ifs to plan the 2023 budget on.
Yeah.
As far as I'm
And
concerned.
it goes back to that money's not coming out of operating anyways. We still
No,
have to provide
because-
services. We have, you know,
But it could be coming out of the cash flow and eventually be back in
Well,
operation.
you always have a cash flow. Now, if, for example, this would handle, let's say it's handled through DASNY, for example. You could submit, bills on a regular basis. And those can be paid, we know how that works. We know how to plan that. Yes, that can be done out of cash flow. Particularly if it can be done with the other 200,000 that you have in investments. But we don't know that yet. We don't know any of that yet. And when are we gonna know that?
and I'll have to, I remember something you had said about, we were talking about having staff versus having a place to have staff. Well, we could have air conditioning and no staff to actually avail themselves of air conditioning.
I'm not, when we say no staff, I'm not saying don't increase the salary. Sometimes I feel like that's the way you're interpreting when I say we have to consider everything. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying we need to consider the whole picture. And,
Yeah, but
trying to accomplish as much as we can with the money that we have.
I mean, we know what we have to do, we just need to figure out how to
you
do
see,
it.
maybe that's it. The money we have, but we won't have the money until we get the budget and we go before the public and see if they'll approve our budget. If the public approves of this budget with both pieces, both the increased salaries and the retirement system, then they've approved it, and then we'll have that money. I understand looking at all the aspects and all the considerations, but at what point do we say, or do we make the decision, but we need to do this, or we're not gonna do it? The fundamental, the part of this is something that we probably need to do. And I use that, I'm very cautiously using probably. That needs to be done and we need to decide, are we going to do it or not? There are always going to be other contingencies and needs for money. That's something that's a reality. And then I understand, and I think we all understand there are other needs. There are other considerations. But is that going to determine all those what ifs, determine whether or not we vote on going with this budget or not?
I feel that all the other things that we're trying to do should be part of our considerations when we vote on budget. Yeah.
Marie, do you have an idea about what would be a different solution? Like, are you saying don't increase by 10% this year, but scale it a little bit more so we have a little bit more cash on hand? Like, do you have an idea about how it could all work?
I'm in favor of the staff increase. I'm not in favor of joining the retirement system
Okay,
because,
at all ever.
well, I don't know in the future, but it worries me at this time and with the other things we're trying to do. It's a big commitment and it's a commitment, a permanent commitment. It's not something we can dial back. And we do need many other things, like putting in the air conditioning. I don't know that shouldn't be part of an operating budget. I don't know. Keith, do you know when you put in air conditioning, at your fire station, do you bond for that or?
We had to, because there was absolutely no way we could we had to go to a new station.
Oh, so you were doing it as a news station, not,
Yeah,
and
we
so you
could
did it as
not.
part of the whole,
We could
The whole
not put in the old station. The only way we did some of those projects was when we were a separate entity and we had guys donating time and materials, which you can't do as a public entity in the same way. And we were buying some used equipment and doing that. And we couldn't afford to do a comprehensive solution. But some of our choices, when we became part of the fire district, became very constrained by now being part of the public entity. And they're looking this year at the net fire district, at probably the station renovation bond for the other station and the second bond for 2 pieces of apparatus. Because you can't keep hitting the operating budget in that way.
The air conditioning, I mean, is estimated, at over $1 million.
well, it's not just the air conditioning piece, it's also the whole HVAC system.
Yeah, I mean, but anyway, I don't see how you get that from our operating.
Well, I'm not saying we can, but I think that we need to look at the operating budget for some cash flow. The HVAC isn't just the only thing we have going. You also are putting in a construction grant.
Yeah.
As well,
we go down
that-
a year.
And so where does that money come from and the cash flow for that? So it's just, it's a lot of pieces to try and handle.
Well, there is a lot of pieces to handle, but as I said over and over again, that in order for you to do the capital improvements that we need on our buildings, you need to bond. And you need to go to the voters and say, these are the capital improvements we need to do. We've been juggling this thing, I've been juggling it for 30 years. It doesn't work.
And my opinion is you've been taking money that should have been going into the building and putting it into supporting the library. And that's one of the reasons we're in the shape we are. And I say that just because people say the opposite. And I don't, that.
I mean, you talk about bonding for the building for capital improvements. I mean, this community has 2 buildings for a total of close to 30,000 square feet that we own, that there's no rent on.
I know, and exactly. So we, in a sense that.
So we get
if we
away
were
without paying a
right,
lot of money.
and yeah, exactly. So that because we don't pay that, it goes into operating. Yes,
Well,
I'm sorry.
I mean, I don't know that we should be going into all this now.
I think we need to. I don't know what else we're going to, so let's cards on table.
I mean, we don't have someone who probably is the best experienced on this. Kirsten isn't here tonight.
Well, Kirsten, no. He may be well versed in architecture and do that, but this is other fundamental issues. And for me, the fundamental thing about what you just said comes down to what is our mission? What is our reason of being? Are we here to provide service? Are we here, for the public, or are we here for the, facility? And I know you need both. But when you say that,
Operate out of.
Well, and if-
well, I understand, you need that,
And it
but
needs to be a safe building.
it absolutely needs to be.
Yeah.
But when you kind of say we've taken money from and not used money so we could provide service, that's kind of what we're supposed to be
Because
doing.
if we were renting this building, we'd be paying about $300,000 a year. And it would be coming out of our operating budget. So in that sense, because we own the buildings,
I think our budget would be $300,000 more though. There's no way we could
I don't know.
offer services.
Yeah.
There's no way. I mean, we're barely offering the services we should be.
And part of the service is the building to be, it's like meeting space, I think is a really important need that the library can meet. And that's through having the building that we can do that.
Yes, having a building is important for that. I'm not denying that. I'm just saying, what,
Just for a quick calculation, not doing the retirement system, just doing the salary schedule would require still a 10% tax increase. So if you're going to go that high anyway, it seems to me that, you might want to solve the problem and do the whole thing.
I don't think doing the retirement system solves the problem, but and you talk all the time about how we only have about a third of a budget
We
that
do.
we should have. That makes me all the more concerned about making a huge commitment. And, that it's a permanent commitment.
But I think again, going to attracting and retaining employees, that has been a real issue. The retirement, the lack of our participating in the New York State retirement system has been an issue in hiring and retaining employees. Isn't that correct?
It is a big issue in public employment. Public employment traditionally does not offer, the kind of salaries that other places do. So people do look with favor upon the retirement system as kind of compensation for that. And New York State retirement system, for example, and as my staff keeps saying, as a kind of a guarantee, rather than a savings account, which is what TIAA is.
And it's a guarantee because the library assumes that risk rather than the employee. That's why it's a guarantee to them.
But it is a benefit. I mean,
It
and we're still not paying them what they deserve. I mean, we're still below, so it gives them some security.
I also think that it's inequitable because I think that salary is more valuable to the younger employees than is the retirement. And we saw that in the survey, and I know you said, well, only 4 more people voted for saying that the salary was the most important aspect, but that was 50% more. I think that if you're young, you may be having trouble meeting your bills, and so salary is a lot more
So
important.
are you suggesting that we take that increase that we're not going to give them and give it all to them in the salary? Or are you trying to just take it away from them?
I don't know that I would do it this year, but yeah,
So
I
you
would
would be
say-
willing to give them that $68,000 more into the salaries?
I think that might be more important to them than trying to do, I believe in improving salaries. I don't know that we can do an 18% increase this year. Was that what it was, or was it
15 plus
16, you went 17? Okay.
15.
Yeah, basically 16%.
And get away with it,
I think we can. I think part of the problem that goes back decades is we'll do a half step and we'll put that off to the future. Well, the future is bitten us in the ass. It's time to just rip the Band-Aid off and do it.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
and I can, if you want to, devil's advocate, gas is going up, everything is going up. I may not be able to pay my heating bills this coming year. Yet and you want to increase my taxes by 17%. I mean, there are people out there who think that way as well. I had talked to people about the New York State retirement system. And they said, oh, everybody else is going in the opposite direction because it's unaffordable for the companies. And it's, other people said, hey, what our folks get into crap is better than many people get out there. I know we have a high portion of people here who are New York State retirement beneficiaries, but you know, go out there and talk to people and see what they say when ask them, because that's what I've done over the years, and that's convinced me sometimes to vote differently than I might have in favor of things, because you know, sometimes they say, oh yeah, that's reasonable, but there are people out there who are hurting too.
And there, again, when I sit and I talk with my friends in the trades, TIAA craft is way behind what a plumber or an electrician gets regardless.
Oh, you mean in terms of their retirement benefits?
Yeah.
Now, people in the trades make pretty good money, so I don't know that. What about when you talk to other people who maybe don't make as good money? What do they say?
Basically, the fact that most of the people I know are educated and skilled and hustling and planning for the future. And that's local Troy people.
No, and I've talked to local Troy people too, and I'll talk to them some more. But many of the business people don't have any retirement benefits, and were hurt a lot with COVID. They lost business, and they're not in good shape.
Well, that depends on what business you were in. Obviously restaurants did very poorly. Other businesses did not. I think if you go to people who are opposed to any tax increase, whether you increase it 10% or 16% isn't going to make any difference. They're still going to be opposed to it.
Well, and I've had friends who were opposed to tax increases, and what they said, oh, I voted in favor of the library budget because the increase was so small. So it's not just driven by how people in general feel about taxes.
But we have not been showing the real cost of budget being so small, and that is the staff being underpaid and staff not staying.
Okay, and I guess I have no problem with the 10% increase, which is a large increase. I worry about the permanent commitment to the retirement system, particularly since it didn't appear when we did our survey that was the most important issue to people. The majority of people said salary was more important, and I can see that with a younger person, that the money means more to them now than in the future.
Especially if you have a family.
Right, or even if you're, you don't, and you're paying off your school loans, or, So anyway, I've had the floor a long time, please.
I'll just say, one, following what Mary has said, I think, yes, part of our budget being so small is because we didn't put in, a former board didn't put in retirement system back when the library became a special district library. Otherwise, we would have that, larger budget, and maybe that would be propelling us and the community to understand where the library's budget should be. Two, I've talked to people who also are very much opposed to tax increases, just in general, who voted for a county executive because he reduced taxes against their, shall I say, better judgment, and only because of the tax increase. But that said, I would vote for a library increase, even understanding it would be a larger increase than usual because it's the library. Because it still has a different function than, other forms of government, other forms of institutions. So there's a gamut of different opinions about it. And, it's how we go out there and advocate for this too, that we advocate, that the people we speak to advocate, that, there's that ripple effect of advocating. And I understand the risk. You have to understand, I understand that risk. I'm very hesitant about the permanency of this too. I'm worried about what could happen to New York State retirement system, and I mentioned that in the finance meeting. If there's a different controller who has a different philosophy of investing, if social causes, push and pressure the controller's office to change their strategy, because so far it's working. We asked that of their representative. For now, as long as we have the administration they have in place, then there shouldn't be that kind of shift in what it would cost us in the future, that we could be able to count on that once we get past this initial phase. But there's nothing in their operations that say another controller can't change the strategy.
And their
But we have to deal with it.
their safeguard is the comptroller is the sole trustee. And if he screws up, there's several $100,000 out to get him.
Yeah. Of course, it'll be well
That's their
after,
safeguard.
it'll be after the fact though, so it's like, no.
Plus, you also have that thing in the state constitution that says the retirement benefit can't be diminished. So he's between a rock and a hard place and has to be very careful. Because he sees that. So controllers, no matter their outlook on life in the world, tend to be pretty cautious because they know they're constrained.
Yeah.
Well, I think though more the issue is that it's a permanent decision. There's no saying, hey, our budget didn't get passed, we can't pay. If that occurs, we get charged interest, it keeps going, that's a big issue, that it's just a really permanent decision that will be on the backs of the library going forward. I'd rather see us put money into improving salaries than into making such an important, such a long-term commitment.
And just to clarify, because I know Carol asked you this question and I'm trying to follow.
I don't think that the public would approve an increase of this much, 17% for salary increases. Is that what you're asking?
No, not exactly.
Because I thought
That was one of, but more to the point. You were 15.99, 60. You had said you'd rather take some of that money that would have gone to New York State retirement and make an additional increase in salary. Am I
this year?
this year? I'm trying to follow your discussion point, so I can kind of see.
That's a permanent commitment anyway, as salary.
Yeah, we don't usually
It's
reduce.
it's a permanent commitment, but not in the same way that, you don't necessarily, if you can't afford to increase a salary at some point, you don't have to. With the retirement, it's a permanent commitment to pay whatever needs to be paid. So it's not quite the same as a salary.
Yeah, but if you don't increase salaries annually, you lose staff again. And we're back to
And
that
I
same
understand
problem.
that,
Even if you don't increase, but if you don't even keep up at that level,
Right.
you have to decrease the salary, that's not gonna work either.
well, you could lay off people. I suppose that would decrease your retirement contributions. If you laid off
Yeah,
people,
that's
too.
exactly what the library needs, is to go under staff again.
I'm not saying that we want to do that, but yeah, those are some of the alternatives. Yes, you could lay off people rather
Is that
than.
really an alternative with the mandated hours?
There are ways.
We closed Lansingburg previously. It's been done. That's happened here.
We mothball it. I like using that term because when I look at Lansingburg and Sickaway, we close Sickaway. We mothball Lansingburg. We mothball Sickaway. We closed it. So we mothball it, but that's not something I'm suggesting, just so everyone understands. I guess I'm just,
But the people who don't have the longer term view, it's important for them to know what has been done. And could be done in the future if necessary.
and then
But you can't do that with this huge commitment that you're making.
but again, I'm sorry, I'm just really trying to figure out what you were trying to explain, and that will help me
Mhm.
figure out where you're seeing this budget going. So you're in favor of the salary increase. You're not in favor of New York State retirement, but you said something about taking that money and putting it into a salary increase. How,
I'm saying that my preference is to put money into increasing salaries
okay,
for a variety of reasons. Some that, I think that is more equitable for the
Okay.
staff
Right.
and that they voiced a preference for that. I don't think that we can do that. If you're asking me, hey, can we take the 17% and put it all into salaries this year? I don't think we can.
okay, that's what I'm trying to figure out, because again, that question and answer is
Well,
confusing me. You may have understood it, but I was
Over time,
having a problem.
that would be my preference. But if we make a commitment to the New York retirement system,
Right.
we
But
may
if you-
not be able to improve salaries to the extent we would be able to otherwise.
But if you say over time, again, that's almost the same, we're going to continue to avoid the retirement system issue or not do it. That it's not just maybe not this, you know what I mean? It says something else.
I think, well, I know we'd like to make a permanent decision. I don't know that I would ever like to see us go with the New York retirement system for the reasons I've said. But I think there are a lot of things going on this year. I'd prefer to see us delay until next year. The retirements, a decision to go about the retirement system, just because we have so much that we're trying to do this year with the grants and so forth.
Unfortunately, delaying things has helped get us to this position. And I think that with the estimate we have now, with the retirement system, that's the best number you're gonna get. It's only gonna, delaying it further is only gonna raise that estimate and our costs. So,
Yeah, first,
so that we gotta get it off the plate simply because it's more expensive later.
And I don't agree that it should have been done.
Our
The
first
reason-
was 52,000.
So,
I'm not going to say anything about, I've made many a comment of what that original board, and I've said it to those board members, too, but, I don't think they had the best strategy when they set that budget.
well, the first budget was voted down.
Well, there was a whole rigmarole story about why that all happened, but that's almost beside the point, but we're here now. So the question is, what are you doing? And again, I understand the risk. I understand the concerns. It's
And
just
all
that.
the other things that we're trying to do this year.
Well, I think confusing the capital needs of the
Yeah.
library with operating expenses is not the way to go.
I don't think.
I think we still haven't faced the capital needs, and we still haven't faced how they're financed. And that needs to be done.
Right. I mean,
But
we
this is a
as
separate
building
issue.
committee, We gotta come up with a long-term plan on how we're gonna address it.
What does bonding entail? How would you go about that? Where would we start?
In order to do the capital projects that we need, we're gonna have to bond.
And how do we do that?
We ask the voters, ultimately,
They have to vote.
Um,
You want to do that.
but whether or not we can go through the city or whether we can go through, DASNY or whatever, I don't have all the details on that, but, libraries that do capital projects of any size have bonded for that purpose.
So we have to go to the voters to get permission.
You do, yeah.
I got approval, yeah.
So what if,
When
Do
will
they
we do
have-
that? And how?
Well, I mean, it's always there. We have those capital projects. They're not going away.
Right, but
I mean,
what do we need to do to go to the public and put it on the agenda for them to
Well,
vote?
we need to have a plan.
I-
I mean, we don't even, we haven't even decided, do we want to stay here, do we not? I mean, isn't that what the building committee is supposed to be?
Yeah,
working
they're,
on?
they're kind of working, the matrix.
Right.
well,
Yeah.
one of the questions that was asked with the HSR was, can this be the modern library that we want it to be?
Right,
And the HSR said yes.
right.
But I think that we are exploring alternatives because we don't want to we want to make sure we're doing the right thing.
Right.
So that's why we're looking at the alternatives.
And, I'll respond to that too. If, yes, they said, yes, you could make this the modern building, but at a cost, at such a cost. And if one is concerned about the public not being willing to shoulder these financial burdens, then, how do you go to the people and say, this is how much? The amount that we need to make this modern. I mean, it's one thing to stabilize this place. It's another making this that modern building with so many other variables in it that I know I've been, shuffed on, but there are variables.
So we don't want to make it modern. We want to fix it and do some of the different things to make it more efficient and more pleasant place for people to work. What is that going to cost us? We don't have to do the be all and end all. What is that going to cost? us?
Well,
We
we've
just
got
go on
estimates
for that.
from
But
our
even that-
historic structures
We do.
report, and we've got choices in terms of,
How much of it we can do.
right, how much we could do. One of the things, that I think the whole building committee, and they've talked about and agree upon, they want to fix, the stuff. In other words, there's a budget for fixing things.
Yes, yeah.
The masonry,
Stabilizing.
There's fixing and there's.
and then there's another
Yeah.
budget for remodeling the interior of the building so that it's better as a public library. And that's another project.
And there's parts of that where you might not be your first choice, but are mandated costs. But because you did this or touched this.
Yeah.
Now you are required by state law or federal law to also address.
That's
these
true, too.
costs.
But I guess I'm thinking the minimum of what we need to do to make it a safe building and fix the things that need to be fixed. And also, modernize and make spaces for the staff that are more pleasant for them to work in, like, what can we do with other staff spaces? Make them more, I mean, I guess I'm just thinking the minimum that we have to do, make it a safe and comfortable building, not like go crazy with building this, that, and the other thing.
Well, it might be
Finding other,
a combination of what they
figure out how much
did in
that's
the
gonna cost. and go
historic
do that.
structures report, but
Yeah.
you're still looking at a lot of money.
How much?
Just,
Well, anywhere from, they've estimated what, 10 million, 10 to 12 million for the whole project.
Well, that's not bad.
That's repairing the building, repairing the structure as it is,
Free-ish.
and then modernizing the interior so that it's better, it's more usable
Yeah.
for both staff and public.
And
I think it
$1
was,
million isn't a lot.
And also.
Oh, no, libraries spend,
It's not.
a lot more than that.
Also don't
That's
forget,
like,
the building. It's not the building. A library to provide services to the community has two buildings,
Yeah.
both of which need care.
Yeah.
Both of which we're gonna be required to do some stuff to.
so we are talking to the city about bonding. We looked into going through one of the committees that's used by an organization, and we're told that we're not eligible because we're not a not-for-profit. So that puts us back at talking to the city as to whether they could issue bond. So if we needed to do that this year on top of also the 20% here, we'd be voting at the same time, right, Paul, on both issues?
We'd be, yeah,
Are you talking about south of 16?
Right, as well as it just, if it occurs at the same time as passing the budget. We do it at the vote occurs at the same time as our,
yeah, but I don't think you would see the need until next year for the bonding for the projects that we've had.
At this point, even if you have a special building committee meeting and the whole board, then have a special board meeting, the whole board agreed to it. The process takes so much time from the engineering side, your architect, and then from working with your financial team and your bond council. It's not happening in this year's election.
Yeah, I don't see
It's
it.
not happening in this calendar year.
I
It
don't-
physically can't. We don't own the calendar here.
That's fine, but.
Well, the other thing is, by the time we find out,
Do something.
we're supposed to have an election in September. You know, it's not gonna be on the September ballot. So
Okay.
when are you gonna have it on the ballot? Is another question. I don't think it, you know, I agree. I mean, it's not gonna be this year.
But
So we're not gonna
let's
do
start.
let me clarify
Let's start.
let me clarify that
Yeah.
we're talking about two potential bonds. One is for our, to get the money for the cash flow, just for the HVAC proposals. First, and then also we're looking into for the, 10 to 12 million to do the whole kit and caboodle.
Why can't it be one?
Pardon?
Why can it not all be in one bond? Does it have to
Well,
be two
first-
separate funds?
First, we need to see if we're getting our GRI or ARPA money before we get to that
Right,
point of going after bonding.
We don't know the answer on that yet.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether we'll know a reasonable answer before the end of the year.
And then with municipal bonding, you do have constraints, statutory, regulatory, with what can be included in an individual bond. Like, one fire district that is looking at two bonds because they can't put the apparatus in the building in the same bond by law. So depending what you're trying to do and where you're trying to do it, you may by statute be required to issue separate bonds.
But one issue with the, just covering the ARPA and the DRI is that if we aren't working with agencies that will pay you the money upfront, then we need to have the capacity to pay it all out and get reimbursed, and we don't have the cash flow for that.
What about, can we get loans from the bank?
No.
Bank loans.
No,
No, as a
We can't
public
take out
entity, we
mortgages
can't borrow
either.
money.
That's what makes it so difficult, yeah. So I see that they're advertising for a new city controller.
Yep.
Does that mean Andy's leaving?
the 26th of June is his last day. He's going to Shenandoah.
Lost?
Yes, it is. I don't know about anyone else. I'm personally devastated because he was always so good to talk to and go, what about, and he go, I don't know. This is how much it's really going to cost you in dollar amounts. This is how much. We think, okay.
So it's 7 o'clock and we
So what else do we have to do with this document today?
Well, we don't have to approve it.
No.
We have to think about it, but we probably need to vote on it in July.
Do we believe that we might be ready to vote in July on this budget?
Personally, I think I am.
Okay. Okay. I asked for another pragmatic reason. Part of why we're not in Lansingburg today is they have to hardwire the meeting room in order for this to work. So it means that, so if we're doing the July, personally, I would prefer, if we're going to vote on it, meeting here. So if the public has any comments, so they're not thinking we're going to Lansingburg to, be surreptitious in any way. So if we did the public hearing and everything here, then we'd do Lansingburg the next month. So again, that's just the thought process I've been having, because I want to make sure we're balancing getting a chance to be there with the fact that we have business that needs to be as upfront and public as possible. Okay, so we'll put this to a vote hopefully in July. All right, so back to our agenda. The 2% tax cap resolution. Do you want to discuss it or do you want?
I would if I could find it.
Want to use mine?
Yeah, let me use yours. Oh, good.
You have to.
This is sort of a routine that we do every year. It's actually recommended as a routine because for legislative district libraries, the calendar doesn't work quite right. And so we don't actually know what our 2% is. And don't forget, it's not always 2%. Could be 1.7, it could be, different things depending on whatever the controller's office decides. So we do normally, need to sign a resolution that says, that will exceed the tax cap. So this doesn't, it's regardless of what budget, we decide on. So we need to take a vote.
Yes, we do. But first, any discussion or questions or anything else on this?
Pretty much pro forma, we gotta get done.
Yes,
Yeah, but it's
Okay.
7 o'clock.
we need to do the work that we've done. So I will make the motion that we approve the tax cap, 2% tax cap resolution. Do I have, Keith, thank you.
Is it, but is it, it's
What?
override.
It's to override it, right, so we
So we
can go
want
over
to say
it.
that.
Yes,
That-
it's a fail-safe.
I know, but we're not saying that you didn't say that.
I did, I'm sorry.
Well, you didn't say that we're
Said
approving
2%.
overriding.
Override.
2% tax.
Resolution.
Ah,
EKG moves that the board approves overriding of the 2% tax.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
All right, we have a second. All approved?
Aye.
Oh, unanimous, excellent. We don't have to worry about the supermajority. Okay, 100,
Okay, wait, you were the,
what, I made the motion. Thank you for it
and
being
seconded
fixed by the board.
by
Keith,
Keith, okay.
and today. June 14th,
Yeah, no, I got that part.
everybody was in favor.
Oh, happy birthday. Come on.
There's 6 of us.
I did it again, huh?
You need to know. Do you get-
Madam
I don't know
Secretary,
if it's 6 in
If you
favor.
would not mind.
No abstentions, 0-0.
We're going to do my birthday.
Oh, yeah. Whose birthday? Your birthday?
No, the Army birthday.
The Army birthday. I just had mine. Happy birthday to you. All right, so are we good, folks? Now I'll go to just an update on the 125th anniversary celebration. I get to, I guess. I'm a poor substitute for Virginia, but I'll have to do. So, again, the date is July 29th, Friday, the day of Troy Night Out.
Oh, it's July 29th.
July 29th, yes. 5:30 to 7:30 at our main library. 5:30 will be the welcome and reception. So let's see, 120 to 125 direct invites were sent out either by postal service or email. And I use that number because the number after duplicates were eliminated. That was the first mailing. There will be a second mailing, I believe, next week.
The invitations were sent out to.
The names of, we all submitted names of people we thought should be invited. So people like the city council, our legislators, people from the city, people who are heading up institutions in Troy, people who have had a connection with this library in some way, instructors,
And how many did you say was on?
between 120 and 125. I know there were some duplicates on the list. And I did not do the subtraction because you know how good at numbers I am.
So is that list available online for us to look at?
It was, if you hit the connection to not the form, there's two things, one that leads you to the form and one that said, here's the list so far. There will be another mailing next week, like I said that already. A cover letter with included enclosed invite. Some had personal notes added to the invite. Some of the activities on the 29th will be Borrow an Ear, which is a board and a volunteer to answer questions of guests. Balloon Jenny has been, yes. I say contracted, but maybe that's not the right word. Hired, yes, to do her thing. Musicians, there's a couple at least from Schwartz Out Loud that are being used. There'll be tours with Suzanne Spellin. There'll be other activities available for children, adults, and refreshments.
We will be sending out our online newsletter
Good.
as well. And then we'll also be emailing everybody who gave us their emailing address, which is 11,000.
All right.
Anyway,
Yeah, the first mailing was
we're
again
gonna do all the digital stuff.
for please come to our reception. Give us our welcome and all that good stuff.
Are we, did I miss, are we having refreshments?
Yes, we are having refreshments. TBD. I have not yet been apprised of the menu, and if I was told, I've forgotten it already.
Is there a description of us?
What's that?
Excuse me.
A description of us
Upstate.
that's been developed, the library? Is there a write-up of the library in the background? and-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there'll all be
Is it,
video, not videos, but
may I have
pictures.
access to it? Because I said I would look into getting us proclamations and we need to provide that.
Yeah.
So is that available or just? that
Well,
has
there's
to
a
be-
quick one that I think we're gonna be using the longer one, that we have in a brochure. So I think I'll get you that.
Okay, that would be good.
Yeah.
So will we be getting some, like the newspaper to cover it ahead of time? Let people-
Yeah, we'll send all of that to all of those sources, newspapers and stuff as well.
Is this a fundraising opportunity?
Not
Friends,
really,
friend making. Spell it.
friend, yeah.
No, we're not charging.
No, I
We're
wasn't
not asking for
suggesting that.
money. There will not be a donation charge. No, it's just for fun. It's just for friends. And
If
remind
you
people,
raise friends, then you're raising funds eventually.
yes, and you're
You're right.
advocating
I know.
for the library.
Well,
If
it's a
somebody
good
came in
time.
and said, I want to give you $1,000, I'm
We'll
sure we'll
say-
say yes.
Thank you so much.
Put it to the-
Have an extra cupcake.
It's a good time to
Something like
showcase the library.
Exactly,
Because we're gonna ask for more money.
exactly,
That's one of the things.
exactly.
It's
Advocacy,
Yeah.
advocacy. Okay, no, you can't leave. This is your time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Director's report.
And I forgot to put that on the agenda, but I really don't have anything to add. I did cover some of the budget issues that I covered in the May director's report. Again, this time, since we were voting on the budget. And I sent this out before about the grant from Senator Breslin. We're still kind of working on what we want to do with that. But we haven't seen the cash either, so
How much is it for?
16,500.
Should I change it?
And it was a nice thing.
A woman spoke with me and she said she does STEM presentations and would be interested in being paid to do that for the library,
Which now?
STEM.
Oh,
So I just mentioned it since we
Yeah.
have money for that sort of thing.
right. No, that would be good.
Or just give this to Carol. Do you have her information?
Yeah, have a talk to Carol.
I'll
So
get
what
it.
is the STEM presentation?
Science, technology,
Yeah, education.
math is,
Yeah, but what would you
Engineering and
do
math.
What would she do as a presentation?
I don't know, but it's something she's done all over. I think she may have done things, I didn't see it, so I can't say.
Yeah.
Might we ask who that is?
Kathy Kacheri, do you know her?
I don't think so.
She was involved with the COG and also doing things with homeschoolers
Okay.
over there. I
I'm
believe.
just wondering what that would entail, what would she do in her presentation?
I don't know, I would leave that to
Yeah, that
Carol.
would be up to Carol to decide whether or not.
And she
thinks
might,
it's worth it.
and she might have other people that are doing it, or he's like, oh, they've done STEAM.
It just
Yeah.
sends me information.
And then there's
She'd be happy
STEAM.
to have it.
If you add arts, I love that part. Okay, so I think that's it for this. All right. Old business, new business. By the way, I did send something out with the link. We're getting the word out about the DRI survey with the community is being asked. It's on the website, it's on the Facebook page, the friends are putting it out. And I'm trying to think, and so if you have lists of people,
And it
Yes.
doesn't matter if you live in Troy, you can answer, right? Because it said, like, on their other.
A quarter, as of their meeting last week, one of the responses did not live in Troy.
okay. Plus, thank you again for going to that, because Marie was on the tour and I'm celebrating my birthday in on the tour. But
Well, I was part of the committee
yeah,
doing the
here-
tour.
here. There's going to be a QR code out so people could do the survey. So as soon as that's available, we're going to post it here and in Lansingburg. Again, thank you for the suggestion, Mr. Keith. But yes, if we can get the word out, that would be excellent. All right. Other new business or old business?
So I got an email this week saying that because we had previously received a grant from the Preservation League, there was a grant that was open to us for $20,000, no more than a match or something, and it was for critical needs for the building. So I wanted to mention that here. I was thinking that it sounded perfect for the stained glass upstairs. And I know when we've discussed this before, Kirsten has said that we really should get a quote on that and not go by what was in the historic structure report. So I was hoping that we might be able to get a quote on that as to how much that would cost, so that when we see these opportunities, we're feeling.
What glass are we talking about?
The light lights,
The lights, the skylights that are
skylight.
The skylights.
going to fall
What
on people's
would
heads,
we do with them?
have them repaired.
I disagree with the fact that they need it at this point. I don't think they do. I looked at those things, those things have been repaired over the years. I just don't
So you
agree
don't
that they
think
need
it's
to
a
be.
critical need?
No, I don't.
I'm sorry,
I don't agree.
that's the first time I've heard you say that with all the
Well,
discussions that we've had on it.
I don't.
Should we get an expert?
Well,
I mean,
we've
it would
got a couple of things coming up. I've got, I got a grant due pretty soon here. And this needs to go through, discuss with the building committee, but may involve the whole roof up there. We also have, I got an estimate for resealing the walls at Lansingburg. We don't have enough to match those right now. So that would be really helpful to apply to those.
Well, I don't know that Lansingburg would apply because the grant we got that precipitated this offer was for this building, I could check out.
Well, they're on the historic, they're on the
This is
National
historic
Historic,
structures. Yep.
yeah.
Right, but this grant, the grant that, how we qualify for this grant is because we had received the grant for the historic structure report for this building. So I can't,
Ah,
right?
Oh, so it would have to apply to, well,
I don't know, I would have to check.
That's why we,
the roof certainly would, and that's gonna be more critical and more expensive.
But, you know, every time we talk about the windows, Kristen says, well, we need to get somebody else to check that out. So if we could at least get that out of the way, then we would know,
We could,
you know, because we have a
we could
match for
get,
that. And we have a match for the windows.
okay, this is something that was brought up last time, and then we kind of, because I got confused by something that was said, and tried to do a little bit of investigating, and Paul's not sure. From what I understand, because if you're talking about that $10,000,
Mhm.
I thought that was specifically for the Tiffany window behind
yes, so did
circulation.
I.
No,
Because
it wasn't for the Tiffany window behind circulation.
that was the belief, and so you said something about lay lights, and I didn't want to ask at that time, but so it's not. What?
We don't know
They don't
whether they
know.
are or not.
Right, so I thought the money was for Tiffany.
Yeah.
It was just for Tiffany.
There's a difference of opinion between two of our historians.
Right, no, but they can't, there is no whatever.
They don't know.
There's a receipt
Funds.
for some of the work done, like, you know, the ones in the doors and Tiffany.
That's right.
Tiffany, but not,
There's no provenance for anything else.
so, no, it's,
That was the impression that the 10 grand, the donation was for
Yeah, I thought it was for the Tiffany.
the Tiffany.
I thought that's what he was, well,
At least that's what
who knows?
Paul believes he was told.
I didn't talk to him.
who was told?
That's what Paul believes he was told, was that it was for the Tiffany.
I didn't see the check. I don't remember what was put
Why
on.
would he be interested in the skylights? I don't know.
Um, So I can check on that, but.
There's,
So, but it would be helpful to know whether, you know, if Kirsten's right, that we have the wrong amount on that. As far as the roof goes, how much is the roof?
I don't know yet. I can't even get an estimate yet. I gotta get one in the next few weeks, but it's
As I
gonna
say,
be
this is-
expensive.
This is just 20,000. It's not,
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of money.
so I'm not sure it's suitable for the roof. That's why I was thinking.
Well,
about it for the
anything's
state
gonna
grant,
help
because
because
It's a small, you know, because it's a small amount.
if the roof is a couple hundred
No, that's
thousand,
small.
you're gonna need to match it with at least 25%.
Who are you contacting about the roof?
What's that?
Who are you contacting?
Oh, Titan, Skyway,
Have they changed their mind, Skyway? May they come after?
no, they didn't change their mind.
Brad said no.
So I'm supposed to see somebody tomorrow from Titan, I guess. Anyway, we're trying to work with getting just the estimate at this point.
I would probably give you the name of somebody not to.
Good to know.
Not to contact.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. Sorry, just thinking out loud. That was rude. I'm sorry.
No,
Well, part of why this building was chosen because the money was to help pay for the historic structure report, which was here. It doesn't mean that they wouldn't help preserve something else if we're not doing,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I would, you know, I would have to check. to see.
But it wasn't because it was because we were doing it and we needed the money to cover the cost of it, not from anything that came out of the historic structure report on this building. So maybe they'll
Well,
think about Lansingburg.
Yeah, it qualified, the historic structure report qualified as something that they were
Right.
willing to provide money for.
Right. And it just happened to be at Maine. Yeah, it's which
was
came
felt
first.
That Maine
Yeah.
needed it.
Yeah, it would, which comes first, the cart or the horse? So,
So I don't know whether it's specifically for, would be specifically for here, because that's what we got the grant for or not. I don't know. It's a possibility that that would be the case.
anything,
So, but it's back to the question about getting another determination on whether the window. the
Yeah, I
stuff-
can get Ryan Biggs or somebody to take a look at this. whole thing.
No, I would think it wouldn't be Chapman, wouldn't be the people who do stained glass work.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the skylights.
Right, aren't they stained glass or they're not?
Oh, the stained glass? You mean the tipping?
no, she's talking about the lay lights. Lay lights, skylights.
Am I using the wrong term?
Okay, you're talking about the skylights. Would you, to check the skylight, would you use somebody like Ryan Biggs, which are more
Yeah,
structural,
I thought we're
Or-
talking structure. here.
right? Or would you use a stained glass
Well, First of
company?
all, I want to know
That's her
what's
question.
wrong with them, because they look perfectly fine.
Okay,
Well,
There was something in the structure.
And they don't leak.
That questioned their integrity.
right, they were considered a critical issue, not just questions, but that it was a priority.
But-
Yeah, I
I'm
don't
gonna
think,
say
I don't think,
this about the,
I-
you can go ahead.
no.
I have this thing about the historic structure report is that if you read it, you know, the roof, it's in fair condition. I think that was where they used. But when they gave us our verbal report, it was, it's critical. And they never actually answered, end of life. I think they said end of life. I go, well, what's it, how can you say it's fair if it's end of life? And I'm still not comfortable with the answer they gave. But, so I don't know if this is in that area. I understand you might want another opinion on that, but
Well,
the question is who would? Would be the best way of structural people like Ryan Biggs or Cliff.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the skylight. I mean, it's a structural, is it a structural issue? Is that what they said? I don't know. I
Well,
don't,
there was the concern that the glass might start falling down like the gentle rains from heaven.
well, things fall down in this building, but so far not any glass.
So that was their Chicken Little moment.
Oh, you mean the part of the skylight that you can actually see? I don't think that's that big a problem, to be honest. I don't think it's any problem at all, but.
Unfortunately, when you're playing with the roof, you will play with the skylight, for better or worse.
well, as I say, this is the first time hearing that, even though I brought up the $10,000 match and that they were identified as critical needs. And that's why I was trying to find money for it.
We may have to go back. After we didn't look at the historic structures report again and find those lines.
One thing that's really in bad shape are those windows at the top of the stairs, you know, the main stairs, those windows that are,
The interior ones or the exterior?
well, they're.
Because they're the ones in the, aren't there the
They're moved
ones?
this way, they're big, the big
This way?
windows at the top of the stairs. There's a whole bunch of them. Those are all in
The
bad
ones
shape.
that swivel?
Yeah, those are all in bad shape.
Could we use money for those?
As far as I know, I can check, but.
So is there an action item here?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering too. Should I call the HSR folks and inquire? Do we want to have someone look at it so we know whether?
But
Well, we need an engineer, probably an independent engineer to look at it.
yeah, the HSR people are the ones that already said something about it. We might need that second opinion.
It's gonna
Oh,
be,
but to try, I would want to know why they said that, you know?
well,
No,
I don't know
we
either
don't-
because they weren't up there. They didn't have scaffolding up there to look. How do they know that?
I don't know, weren't they up on the roof or did they
You
have?
can't see it from the roof. The roof has a whole different structure,
No,
Bill.
I haven't been up on the roof.
It's a skylight
Oh, I don't-
structure and it's in perfect shape and doesn't leak. They would have to check that glass at 28 feet in the air. And they didn't do that.
I wasn't here, so I don't know, but we need to get some kind of resolution here as to how we should proceed on it.
But we can get a resolution, but it's gonna cost, because nobody's gonna go up in scaffolding and check that, for free.
Is this a building committee?
Nobody I know. Yeah, it's a building
It
committee
is,
thing.
but I brought it up here,
Yeah.
trying to, because when I brought it up at the building committee, they said, oh, we need to have it checked. Kristen, I believe, felt that it was actually an underestimate of what it would cost when it was discussed at the building committee.
Well, maybe how about we table it for here and then bring it to building committee? And then maybe there could be some thoughts about what that next step is.
And then
Several
we
of us.
can go back and read the historic
Yeah,
structures
let's-
report to find the
Right.
specific language.
And then we can figure out,
You remember seeing
what-
it there.
and maybe there's another use of the money and that could be. We wouldn't use it for the lights. Okay, any other new business, old business? Excellent. Community feedback?
Those sense before, someone was saying to me, we have the best online resources, better than Southern Adirondack, better than a couple other places that they would have access to. That we were the best. We have more things available, better selection.
Cool.
Were they talking about the UHRS?
Yeah, well, and us through UHLS. Yep,
Okay, I just
Google
wasn't
and
sure.
Libby and
Okay.
digital content.
And Casey's here. Does Casey?
Hi, good afternoon, or excuse me, good evening, everyone. I don't even know what time it is.
Oh, I'm sorry. Casey, I jumped the gun. I was.
Sorry, Casey.
Okay,
So any other things on public comment? I mean, on community feedback? This is your thing. Casey, thank you. Public comment, you're on.
I'm up. Okay, cool. I am here representing the Friends of the Public Library today, just to give a little bit of an update on some of the things that we're doing. We are going to be at the farmers market again on the 25th, which just so happens to coincide with the DRI public showing at the Arts Center. The Friends have been actively promoting, I know Evelyn, you said that, we've been actively and aggressively promoting public comment in favor of the DRI proposal, grant proposal. We definitely feel like that is something HVAC, obviously, I know you guys get that feedback, but so do we, about the temperature of the library and also how long it takes to cool down. So it's certainly something that we feel very strongly about. And so, kind of to that end as well, it is our 50th anniversary. We've been actively fundraising and looking for projects to support financially, large or small, but things that are critical improvements. So, I know you guys were just talking about the stained glass in the one meeting room upstairs. I also remember that being a conversation that was, that there was a structural issue with that and that there was concerns that the glass was going to fall. If that is something that, there is some question about what the cost would be for getting a, like an estimate on that, that could potentially, the cost of that estimate could potentially be something that we would, potentially be able to fund. It's just a matter of knowing what some of these critical improvements are that you guys are looking to tackle. And if there are small, amounts of money, and when I say small, I don't mean like $50, but I mean, $5,000 and under, that, you need some funds up front to do some of these estimates as we start to look at, bonding for some of these larger projects. The Friends are available. We are open to talking about that and hearing. We just need to have kind of a list, a prioritization list. So when we think about things that we want to support, obviously, we've done the children's reading room in the past. There's been some other things that come along, like floors and whatnot. But two, when we have these critical structural issues, and one of the reasons why we've been so successful fundraising this year with the 50th anniversary is how strongly people still feel about both of these buildings and about these being the places that we use as our libraries. That's the feedback that we got, kind of in person as we've done these book sales. It's also the feedback that we heard when we were involved in the historic structural kind of conversation. So all of this is kind of a long-winded way of saying, we know that there are big things that you guys are looking into and looking to do. We also know that there are some pretty big grants out there that are kind of a one-time deal that aren't part of a standard grant that maybe we would see in the city of Troy, DRI and ARPA. So anything that we can do as friends, more than just like promoting, please definitely come talk to us and kind of use us. Obviously we can't, do the bond for you, but if it's things like, if there are matching funds that might help these grant proposals get selected. I know that the state is going to be pretty focused on how they disperse the DRI funds, but if there are things that we can do to help support those initiatives, we're definitely here for that, and we want to help you guys as much as possible.
Thank you. We appreciate, everything you do.
I think there's a city council committee that's going to be making decisions on ARPA
Okay.
funding, Casey. So people may want to advocate with their city council people.
Okay.
Yep, they're probably going to go through on some more public comment periods too.
Yeah, and we are actively going to be essentially shoving people at that art center, DRI, public, whatever showing on Saturday. So we will be handing out bookmarks and also essentially pointing them in the direction of the art center building all day. Well, from 1 to 4.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment? Yes. Yes.
Can I talk during this?
Oh, yes.
Okay. I just wanted to share with the board that my wife and I are expecting our first child. She is due at the end of August. Evelyn and I have already briefly discussed this because I'm a little bit anxious about that, what that might mean for my role on the board. I decided that I want to try to stay on the board, but I am anxious about how available I will be. So I'm still thinking about what that means for my role as secretary, if that's something that I might want to step down from. Obviously, if we're reducing expectations that I don't necessarily call myself, that might be more possible. But I'm just thinking about wanting to be as minimally disruptive to our flow if I'm unable to attend for some reason as I figure out this new parenting thing. So in advance, I appreciate your grace with me. Thank you.
Congrats. And anything the board and the library can do to be more flexible and make this work for you too.
We always got this thing.
Yes.
Which is, considering that it's in July, that's, I'm sorry, that is part of the thought process, was get it done now before August.
We don't mind an occasional loud interruption either.
No. This room would probably really appreciate it. It's like a reminder. And again, like I said, truncated, if there's any time, some of those responsibilities can be shouldered and worked on by someone else. It can happen.
I appreciate
We'll
it.
make this
Thank
happen.
you, everyone.
Because you're fabulous. So there you go. Thank you. All right, any more public comment? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. No, thank you, everybody, for attending. So we're on to our last thing, date and time of next meeting, July 12th, 2022. We'll still do finance at 5:30 for a public hearing, Knockwood, and then continuing on to the regular board meeting. I'm making a motion to adjourn. Do I have like
Yeah.
everybody's seconds? All been approved. Thank you, everybody.
So Paul, do you have that background available now? You know it.
Yes.
I'll hold you to that.
Yeah. We have a.
Right. So all the more reason why we just wanted to clarify.
Yes, I'll give it to you.
Okay, great. And I don't remember, you have a place for bottles that, no? I mean, that you get, do people turn them in for them?
Yeah, you can leave that up here because
I'm
the
sorry.
return is down.
Do you
below.
still have your seconds? Sorry.
I still have my CV.
You can leave that with me and I'll put it in.
Sorry, I'm unfair to ask the director to do that.
Yeah, I got mine too. So no, return is down the basement.
No, speaking of which, we do have library day at the board game,
Yeah, I gotta look that up again. What's that?
but you already have your seats. So you don't need to get another one. You can just stand up.
Evelyn, where are you parked?
Oh, yes, right.
Thank you.
Flowers.
Thank you.